that one I am going to turn off. Welcome to UroNurse. We meet every Saturday, and I do meet every Saturday, even when I'm on vacation, at 9 a.m. Central Time. And I'm actually on Eastern Time for the first time. 10 o'clock has thrown me way off my game. But welcome all the attendees that have shown up. Thanks, panelists, for showing up. This is going to be definitely an interesting show. So we're broadcasting on the Royal Caribbean's Independence of the Sea. Beautiful ship, big ship. We're having a great time on our trip right now. For those of you that, well, I guess I can't say on YouTube, I'm not broadcasting on YouTube this time. So if you're looking to watch it on YouTube, you'll have to watch it later because I'll be able to upload it. There are some glitches that you find out when you're on using the satellite link. So, I got a message from John that he says impressive speed. Great. Yeah, so it is working. I was worried earlier, John, or all attendees, because I was checking the speed religiously last night. I think there was a lot of people on the internet, but luckily we're in port in Nassau, Bahama, beautiful sunny day, and everybody's off the ship playing. So here I am in my room broadcasting, but I'd rather be here, I think, than out in the heat anyway. I'm more of a cold person, but yeah, it's impressive. It's working off the Starlink system that Elon Musk put up in the air. And I'm gonna have a special surprise when I get to the show. So I've got the perfect story for a cruise. So we just looked up, and this is my 36th cruise. And so I've been cruising for a long time. I didn't do 36 in 1 year. Anyway, I was on a cruise a long time ago, and we're walking wherever passengers are gathering. I think we're getting ready to go to dinner is what it was. And this elderly lady takes a stumble on a stair or something that was there that she didn't notice, and she falls. And she hits her arm, and she's holding her arm, that's, oh, wow. And I said, so I, of course, being a nurse, what do? You stop and you assess the situation. And I said, are you okay? Did you hit your head or anything? No, she said, just my arm's hurting. And I noticed she's wearing rings. I said, take your rings off. I said, first thing. I says, you're going to have to go to medical and they'll have to check and see. I says, looking at it, it could be fractured, it could be non-displaced. I can't see anything from my first look, but I said, as long as you're feeling okay, have your family take you down to medical to get it checked. So she did. And then about a day or two later, I see her, she's got it wrapped up in a sling. And she goes to me, she says, I am so glad that you stopped and told me to take my rings off. She says, how did you know to do that? And my wife's in the line. She goes, well, he's a nurse. So of course he knew. She said, yeah, my hands swelled up. She said, the doc said if I had removed my rings, they would have had to cut them off. So see, you're always a nurse no matter where you go. Anybody else have stories they want to share, or I'll get on to the rest of the meat of the subject?
I have a story that happened this week.
Good.
So this just says that it's very important to ask the person for their name and date of birth when you bring them back. So we were kind of busy that day, and there was one of my nurses is like, Lori, I need your help. I'm in here doing a CIC teaching. Trevor's in this, doing a catheter or whatever. We had like 3 people come back because they couldn't pee from the morning when we took out their catheters. So she's like, oh, he's like 100 years old and yada, yada. And I'm like, all right. So I go to the waiting room. I call his first name. Only guy in the waiting room. He gets up. He comes in. He looks like he's about 100 years old. I come back and he can't pee. I do a PVR. He's in retention. So I'm like, all right, I'll put the catheter, and I'm talking to him. And the doctor said, because I asked him for follow-up, what's his follow-up? Well, the family says they're moving in a couple of weeks, so he's going to have to follow up wherever he's going. So I went back in there, and he goes, well, I'm not moving. And I'm thinking, okay, well, he's 100. He probably doesn't, he probably doesn't know. He's not really. I go, well, how did you get here if your family was with you? He's like, I drove. And I'm like, huh. So I go back out to the doctor, and he's like, oh, that's not the patient I was thinking. I'm like, okay, well, maybe the doctor mixed it up, and because he saw a lot of patients that day. And to find out that it wasn't that patient at all. He came back. It wasn't his name. It was, I don't know why he responded. He was the only one in the waiting room, but that other patient that she asked me to deal with wasn't even there yet. So very important to ask for their date of birth. It didn't change the treatment plan. He still needed a catheter and everything, but yeah. And the other guy that actually was coming in, he was about 100 years. Actually, he was 100 years old. So.
Well, I'm super impressed that he's driving at 100, but
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I'm like, woof, that's that. Yeah.
I do remember when I was working in the ambulatory float pool, I spent a lot of time in the cancer center. It was very busy. We were accessing a lot of ports and doing triage. So we were calling patients from the lobby probably every 15 minutes. At least once a day, I would call a name and someone would confidently stand up and walk back, and it was the wrong person. So got to be very careful.
Yeah. I think we've all probably experienced that. We're the wrong person. I think people are nervous, and the names, of course, slight hearing impairment, name sounds close enough. They get in, and I've always asked them, what's your date of birth? I mean, that's my first question. And I'm like, are you sure? Because it wasn't matching. I go, what's your name? It wasn't even close. So I think we've all had that experience.
Yeah, this guy's name wasn't anything what I called him back as. We had another story. This was many years ago where one of our MAs had brought a patient back to do a cystoscopy and called him from the waiting room, came in, they did the cystoscopy, and he was Spanish speaking, so I don't think you really understand. Well, the cystoscopy was done on somebody who didn't need one.
Well, at least it wasn't a removal of a testicle. Yeah, it's one of those things you can't stress it enough. Make sure you double check with patients that you have the right person there. So yeah, great. Welcome all of our attendees. I'm coming to you from the warm Caribbean at Nassau in the Bahamas. See a lot of our regulars are showing up. April, Diane, Emily, Francis, Jackie, John, Katie, Kevin, Neil, Susie, welcome. So got a great show for you. If any general questions, feel free to put those in there. I'll be glad to take those. John's just sending, that's what happened to one urologist taking care of a patient, bilateral or autoorchiectomies. See, it can happen. So always a wise thing to double check, triple check. Well, now I think you have to sign it. I don't know, maybe John could have answered this question. You have to sign which testicle you're taking off, like they sign the legs. I don't know. I don't remember our guys ever doing that, but it is something to be cautious of. All right, so I think we're, let's see. That's what it, let's see. Oh, yes, always mark the site laterally. So yeah, so good thought, good answer. Unless we have any other questions, any general questions popping up here, I'm going to go over and switch to the show. So I've done a lot of this is pre-recorded, so it's going to be playing movie files. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I'm going to do a real short movie, and I'll rely on my great panelists here to let me know if it's working. So let's see.
It was a little choppy, but we're all feeling jealous for sure.
So it is doable. All right, because I'm going to go into the regular film that I shot here on board, and we'll take it.
Hey, and welcome. This is Vic Senese from UroNurse. We're going to go try to get that interview with the medical staff here. I'm hoping to run into one of the nurses down in the first level, which is where they're located, and try to find out if I can get the answer to this question. What do you guys do if somebody comes in with urinary retention? So let's go on our trip and start seeing some of this great ship. So we're on the 8th floor. That's where our room is located. There's 15 floors to the ship, and this is the view that we have. It's called the Centrum or Central City or something. Promenade, that's right. And as you can kind of see, I'll get out of the way here. And our room faces into that promenade where you can see what action is going on. It's kind of a cool area to hang out and do stuff. So we came up to where you can actually see off of the top of the ship, and we're at port right now, getting ready to go on our cruise pretty soon. I just talked to the nurse down at the infirmary, and we have an appointment for 4 o'clock to take an interview. So it's looking good, like we're going to get this actually done. So I thought in the meantime, we take a little trip around the ship and show you a few things, what it looks like. So again, not the most attractive view, but this is what the ports tend to look like. This is the Port of Canaveral, which is really a nice port. It's got great parking. It has a parking garage that you can see over there. So if you drive a car, which is what we left a car from my sister's house over there, you've got a nice enclosed area to park. So it really works out nice. So let's go see what else we can find. So as you can see, we're in the harbor, and there's one of the other cruise ships over there. That's Disney Cruise. So if you got kids, that's a fun thing to probably go on. And then there's a harbor patrol or towboat or something coming along here to check things out, make sure everything's going the way it should. Not the nicest weather today. It's sunny, but not super nice. I'm hoping it kind of clears up. The SpaceX is supposed to launch 2 rockets today, and we're hoping to be able to see those from the cruise ship because we're at Cape Canaveral, so it couldn't get any closer. But I don't know if that's going to happen today or not. The weather looks questionable, but we'll see. The boat is just taking off. We're just starting to launch, and the rocket is going to launch in 1 minute. We're getting ready to watch hopefully the takeoff of SpaceX from the cruise ship. Still waiting for the rocket to take off. So unfortunately, the launch seems to have been canceled. There are supposed to be 2 launches today, so the second launch is still on, and that's going to be in about an hour, and we're hoping to try to see if we can catch some footage of that. We're also on hold for our interview, as they had to get clearance from their medical department. So I'm waiting for a 6 o'clock clearance. So will the rocket go off? Who knows? Will I get my interview? Who knows? Will you guys get to watch a great video? Definitely. So stay tuned. Well, as luck would have it, we did get to see SpaceX take off. So in the background, you can see that's where Cape Canaveral was. Our ship was already sailing, and we weren't all that far away, so we got a pretty good view. Unfortunately for the cloud coverage, we didn't get to see it go up all that high, but it was pretty nice. Unfortunately, we did not get to record our session with the medical staff as they were unable to get clearance. But instead, we took you on a nice tour of the ship. All right. So how was the video? Did it work?
It did work. A little choppy, but it did work. And that was really cool that you got to see that SpaceX launch.
Yeah, they were supposed to set history by sending 2 off at the same day, but the one got canceled. So it was neat.
I especially liked Santa's outfit lined up on a string.
All right, just taking a quick look some of the information. Well, John was impressed with my setup for recording. RCL has made me thousands. I guess he must be invested in the company, so that's good. And if you have any questions on cruising, I'll take those. I do have some information to share. Although I was unfortunately unable to try to set something up, I wrote the company ahead of time to try to get permission ahead of time. They never would respond back. So then I thought, well, if you can't get permission, then, get forgiveness. So I went down to medical to try to set this whole interview up. And as I kind of mentioned, I spoke to the nurse there, and he's like, yeah, he says, we get back about 4 o'clock. Right now we're out because the ship hadn't taken off yet. He says, probably after 4, we could do something. So then I go and after 4, come down ready to hit him for the interview. And he's like, oh, I got to have you talk to the head nurse to make sure we can do this. So then I talked to the head nurse, who says, oh yeah, I got to clear that with medical. I'm like, can you do that today? I said, I'm going on tomorrow. So I'll do my best. And obviously didn't work.
I think you should have walked in there as a patient there, Vic.
Yeah, just burst through the doors. Hey, I can't pee. But I'll tell you, the other thing is I'm running around with that cord set up. My wife's, you can't see, she's got a rig for the iPhone with a camera rig. So it looks very professional. Well, I had, passengers all over the place asking questions about what you're doing. And one lady wanted to bust a move with me. I said, you've never seen me bust a move. You don't want to bust a move. But it was a fun time going around the ship and getting some of that video. So with the I had my logo shirt on. Well, of course, you can see that in the video. So that did work. I did get the companies to give me some video footage and some information about what they do. So I do still have the lecture on what happens on a cruise ship if you need to visit medical. So I am going to switch over. Switch this. No, I guess I want this view here. Sorry for the delay. I really missed my at-home studio where I could just click buttons and all this stuff happens magically. Still that magic. So yeah, this ship, we've actually been on this once before, shortly after it was built. It was the, I think, biggest ship at the time. Now they've made them even bigger, if you can believe that. But it was refurbished in 2018. So for us, it's almost like being on a new ship because it really looks a lot different than it did before. Holds 4,375 passengers. And I'm not sure how full the ship is because of COVID and because it's so close to Christmas. So it may have gone down in their passengers. But I tell you what, when I went to breakfast today, I think I saw all 400 or all 4,000 passengers eating breakfast because it was hard to get a table. But so here is what they had to share with me about the medical system. So they've got fully upgraded medical equipment, of course, even more upgraded since COVID hit. They do have hospital-grade ventilators on board. They have cardiac monitors. They have centralized oxygen system, nebulizers, defibrillators, and external pacemakers, and the ability to do EKGs. They can provide therapeutic treatments right on board, including antibiotics and IV medications. They keep an array of antivirals, retrovirals on board. That's probably since COVID now, and oxygen therapy. They also have their own fully contained comprehensive laboratory. It has a large range of tests that they can perform. Results are provided right there on board, and it includes, of course, the testing for COVID-19. And so how much of a staff, I was wondering, do they actually have on board? And it depends on the size of the ship, but each ship's medical staff right now at a minimum is 2 doctors who are specialized with training in acute and intensive medical care, plus experience in maritime medicine, and 4 registered nurses. One of these is the new infection control officer who ensures all applicable public health and disease control standards are met. And boy, they upped up their game as far as disinfection. And before you walk in now, they've got this big sink area. Everybody's got to wash their hands, and they're yelling at you if you try to walk through without. So it's good. You're going to a place where you're scooping stuff out. And there is additional support. So if they ran into an issue they couldn't take care of, they have telehealth that they can utilize to talk to a specialist and get information from them. Now, this, I think, is new since COVID. They have 2 distinct care zones that they set up in their mini hospital. One is just their general care for people who come in with, such as that lady who broke her arm. And then they've got a what they call their controlled care center. This is more like an isolation type setup where it's got negative pressure air to contain any, respiratory viruses or things that could be going through, special pass-through cabinets and things. So it's kind of cool. And if you're ever wondering if you wanted to, how I could join as a nurse, or how you could join as a nurse or a doctor, they do offer. They're looking for people to join their ships. They offer up to $6,000 sign-in bonus, up to $30,000 retention bonus, competitive compensation, free medical insurance, and absolutely the opportunity to travel the world. So I did get to go down there. I told you I kind of snuck down. So the medical center is located at deck 1. That's 15 decks high. The 15th deck is kind of a cheat deck, so it's full 14 decks of stuff. But everything that happens that the passengers don't get to see is on deck 1, and that's where the medical facility is. They do have somebody on call 24 hours for emergencies, but they have like regular clinic hours too, and they're open between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. So you can schedule an appointment, you call and set something up. So if you were just having motion sickness or, whatever, you could still go in there and see a doctor or a nurse. Now, this is a video that I got from RCL taking a tour. So we are going to get our little tour of the hospital. So here we go.
The American College of Emergency Physicians and the cruise industry have developed standards that really set the bar. They are the gold standard really for the equipment and the qualifications of the staff that are needed on a ship, in our opinion. At Royal Caribbean International, we meet and exceed all those minimum recommendations from the American College of Emergency Physicians.
First of all, we have all the equipment that we need for cardiac cases. That's very important in this setting. We have the defibrillators, we have blood tests that we can use, electrocardiograms. We also have respirators.
We have digital X-ray on board, so we can take the X-rays and transmit them shoreside to specialist consultants anywhere in the world. We have a teledermatology program on board now where we can take digital photographs of unusual skin rashes or skin problems and send them to the University of Miami and get a consult turnaround within 24 hours.
We can do quite a bit of bedside testing, electrolytes, and we can do, of course, blood sugar and various other things. But we can also do enzyme work that will make the diagnosis of myocardial infarction much more accurate than only using the electrocardiogram.
We have just completed redoing our entire formulary. We maintain a wide variety of drugs on board for emergency situations, including thrombolytics, the clot busters for heart attacks, a variety of other medications.
Generally speaking, on the Royal Caribbean International ships, you'll find 2 physicians and 3 nurses. On some of the larger ships, such as the Oasis and the Allure of the Seas, we have 3 physicians and 5 nurses.
Our medical staff are all required to have a minimum of 3 years of postgraduate training, equivalent of a residency program wherever they're from.
We focus a great deal of time and effort into training our staff because in the medical field you need to be constantly training your staff and updating them on the latest techniques and procedures.
We manage more crew and more medical facilities on board ships than any other company in the world. That gives us a lot of flexibility and a lot of ability to deliver, I think, very high quality services to both our guests and our crew.
So I was able to get sort of a video of the place. So it worked out. My wife was panicky. She's like, what are you going to do? It's not going to work. You didn't get your interview. I says, there's always got to be a plan B. So that was plan B. So it's pretty interesting, what they are able to do on board the ship. I did find out that, they do have a morgue. Unfortunately, sometimes some patients don't always survive. So they have a morgue for that. If somebody was, in a situation where they couldn't get health, they couldn't render the care they needed to render, they do have the ability to have a helicopter transport patients off the ship to get health care, or if they can wait until they're able to get to the next island, they'll do that. So, alrighty.
I bet it's come a long way from the Love Boat with Doc, huh?
That is a weird way of looking at at a cruise. Rebecca, thank you for the comment. She said, very nice and impressive. And again, whenever you're trying something new, it's always, you never know what's going to happen. So I thought it'd be kind of a cool idea. I'm glad we're able to do this. I'm really happy with how UroNurse has been going, and that we've had such a good following. So try to keep it going every Saturday. I've got quite a few panelists lined up for the future, so we're looking good. But if you have any questions about cruising in general, 36 cruises, I could probably answer them all.
Vic, I was really curious after watching these videos about what it's like to be a nurse on one of these cruise ships. So I found an article. I can't tell exactly when it was written. It seems pretty up to date here. So it's 10 pros and cons of being a nurse on a cruise ship.
Oh.
So we'll start with the cons. It looks like you don't have much privacy. You do have to share a room with someone else. So the second con is you'll be living with a stranger. Number 3, you may end up having seasickness. Number 4, you may be tied to a contract. Number 5, you will have decreased job security. So it sounds like these nurses have to sign a new contract about every 2 months. 6, you may not get days to rest. It says here that they don't get many days off. You're on the contract. Depending on the cruise, you might be allowed to take a vacation day after you've worked 6 months consecutively. I hope that's not accurate.
I think
7.
that is accurate.
Wow.
Because that's what most of the performers that I've talked to have told me. It's a 6-month sign up. Before you get a vacation. Yeah.
Okay. Number 7 con, you'll be working long hours. Number 8, you may be up working late at night. As you mentioned, there's on call. Number 9, you may become homesick. Number 10, you can become sick yourself. Let's move on to the pros. Your salary is not too shabby. So it sounds like a top level employee can expect to earn around $66 an hour. And that's an annual salary of $134. That's pretty darn good. Number 2, you will travel to some pretty unbelievable places. Number 3, you'll work at sea, which is pretty cool. Number 4, you'll make friends from all over. Number 5, your cost of living will be pretty low. Nurses who work on cruise ships make a lot of money, and this is because room and board will be paid for. Number 6, you have a tremendous amount of flexibility. Number 7, you gain a unique work experience. Number 8, you can get discounts on cruises. Number 9, you'll be exposed to a lot of different cultures. And number 10, you'll gain some really vital experience.
Wow. Well, thanks. That was a great article you found. I will tell you that I spoke to 2 nurses, both were guys, and they're both very pleasant. I mean, the first guy who wasn't the senior guy, he was like, yeah, that sounds like a great thing. He was, all over it. So I thought I had this in the bag until of course, the boss gets he's like, ooh, I got to run that through the headquarters, but not even the medical on the board the ship. It had to go all the way back to headquarters. So, and I can understand they don't want to probably have something going out that they didn't get to pre-look at but yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot of pros and cons. I've been on a lot of cruises. Like a lot of the entertainers are free to run around the ship when they're not entertaining. Talk to several of those. And when I wasn't just doing nursing, I was also a musician for a while. So I was talking to one of the piano players, and he was saying, yeah, it's a great gig. He says, there's also but he did say you sign on for 6 months. He says it's pretty much you're locked in for that. But he said there's a type of piano player you could become that you just fill in for when somebody else is on vacation. So when they go on vacation, they need to get somebody to come in. And he says, those are short-term contracts. He says, so you could do that if you want. So who knows? Someday I might be on a cruise ship at the piano bar. Sing me a song on the piano man. But you can definitely tell. I mean, it's a long-term commitment, but I didn't realize the salary. It says good compensation, but that seems pretty good. And the big thing is, like you said, there is no living expense. All your food's covered. I said the biggest problem is trying to control your weight when you've got all this great food and round the clock you could eat. So that's always the big drawback.
Yeah.
But we have any questions from the gallery? We got a nice group here. Not seen anything coming in.
I bet you they see a lot of that holiday heart when people go into AFib from eating and drinking too much alcohol and eating too much sugar.
Probably. I know they see a lot of, there's several people fall on these ships.
Yeah.
Of course, the age ranges from kids up to, that's probably that 100-year-old. And, you're on wet surfaces. I actually took a cruise with my cousin not too long ago, and she was walking along to get into the pool, and she took a slip and she actually broke her foot. And so I got to see that particular part of the hospital because I brought her down there. But they take digital x-rays right there. You could see the fracture. They immobilized it and said, she could get by until she got home. It wasn't anything that had to be emergently treated. So that was good. But they were very responsive and very nice to deal with. And like I said, I was even at one time took a tour where I did get to go through and see medical on one of the cruises, and they showed me the morgue. And I says, morgue? They go, trust me, people don't always make it through the cruise.
I've actually only been on one cruise, believe it or not, but it was to Hawaii. This was back in 2006. And I was supposed to go on a hiking excursion, and I started having like really bad pain in my groin, and I there's no way I could have hiked because it just was terrible. I couldn't walk up the stairs. And so I went to the ship doctor because you have to get out of the excursion in order to get, so you don't lose your money. He's like, oh, you probably pulled something. I'm like, I don't remember pulling anything. Like, I don't remember injuring it or anything. And the next day that pain was completely gone. Well, 2 weeks after I got back from the cruise, I ended up having a pulmonary embolism. Yeah. And I was 36 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you said it was Hawaii, so you had the flight to Hawaii?
Yeah, they blamed it on the flight. In hindsight, I'm still on Coumadin we found out I had a protein S deficiency, which apparently ran in the family, which nobody really talks about. So, yeah.
But yeah, it's scary. Things can happen anywhere, even on a cruise ship. So it's good to know that there's a medical facility there. And I guess they can start anti-thrombolics. Mm-hmm. Murdering that word. They've got the ability to do that too. So yeah, it's neat. I love it. Continue to. I'm sure my wife's already looking at the Panama Canal, so we're planning another cruise in the future. But it does have its interesting parts. So I don't see any questions coming in, which is fine. I have no problem with that. Hey, I'm on vacation, so we end a little early, but I will tell you that next week is Christmas Eve, and it's a Saturday. And yes, we will be on the air. For those that are brave enough to want to come and join me, it's going to be a great show. So my plan was, it's almost Christmas. However you celebrate, there's usually presents involved. So I wanted to go through and find all the latest gadgets that have to do with urology. So I've been for the last 2 weeks scouring the internet, and I've got quite a collection of things that are either coming soon or actually already on the market that are surprising. And I don't know. I think Andrea said you were thinking of being there next week. If you're going to be here next week as a panelist, you want to bring some special idea that you found or some special thing that you use in urology, go ahead and bring it. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to spend the time just going through all these crazy new things that are coming out. It's a lot of it's amazing. So it's going to be fun. I had a blast just finding this. I'm like, really? That exists? So even when you're in the field, you think you know it.
I'll try to give you a picture of the costume I'm supposed to wear tonight for the urology Christmas party, which I mentioned in a previous.
Definitely.
We're going to decorate it. So.
Yeah, definitely send a picture. And that all attendees are welcome to send anything in through our link, through the email link on uronurse.com. More than glad to see whatever you found, and we'll just put it on. It should be fun. So it's exciting. And then we're going to also be, the following one is New Year's Eve, and we will have a show that New Year's Eve. I'm going to try to put together cuts from all of our shows, and so you can kind of see the progression of how we've come along. Audio changes, video changes, lighting changes, content, how well we introduced the show. I think it's progressed. I think we've gotten better at it the more we do it. So it'd be interesting to kind of take a look back and then kind of talk about what's coming up in the future, because I've got a lot of great panelists lined up for 2023 and still looking for more. And any ideas that I can get, I'll pursue them. So that's our plans going in the future. So I hope to see a lot of attendees show up for those shows. Hope everybody has a great holiday. And I'm not seeing any Q&As coming through. So if there's nothing else to be said by me, then I have nothing else to say. Unless Andrea or Lori have something to say, we're going to close the show pretty soon. Rebecca did say Christmas Eve pajama party. No, I'm not wearing pajamas.
Awesome.
They were wearing pajamas last night on the cruise. It must have been some group that was here. And everywhere I go, these people are running around in their pajamas. I'm like, what the heck? There was a whole group of them. No, not going to happen. Lori, any final words?
No, I hope everybody enjoys the week and enjoy your cruise. Sounds like a lot of fun, and it was a great job today. It was very interesting.
Thanks. Appreciate it. And Andrea?
Very interesting topic. Now I'm
All
dreaming
right,
of 10 years ago, I could have been a cruise ship nurse.
What could have been? Yeah, absolutely.
Could have been. But I'm looking forward to next week.
Good. So am I. Okay, so with that, I'm going to close the show. Thanks everybody for showing up. I will open after party. If anybody's crazy enough that wants to talk, I'll be hanging around for a few more minutes. If anybody wants to come in with some last comments, I will open it up, because why not? And otherwise, everybody have a great holiday. We'll see you hopefully next week.
Thanks, Vic. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.